Hi, this is Jen Rubin, Interim Chief of the Contrarian. I'm delighted to welcome back the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, the former impeachment manager, Representative Jamie Raskin from the great state of Maryland. Welcome.
Jen, thank you for having me tonight. I am really psyched to be with you.
Well, we are delighted to have you. Democrats held a really extraordinary hearing to commemorate, to remind Americans about what happened. And you had some remarkable testimony. What stood out for you among the experts and even someone who had been prosecuted for January 6 crimes?
Yeah, well, let's start with Pamela Hemphill because we tracked her down to Idaho, and I'd remembered, the MAGA grandma, and seeing a little article about how she had rejected her pardon, and I was amazed by that. And
Yes.
so we tracked her down, and she agreed to come and speak with us. And that was about the most moving thing in the world to hear
Yes.
her testify with such bluntness and such honesty about how she got into the mega cult. And she said, and Donald Trump, I believed your lies and I believed your nonsense. And I don't want your pardon because I did enter the building illegally. And she spent 60 days in jail. And what was interesting was, I mean, she'd already done her time. So by rejecting the pardon, as you know, she was just rejecting the removal of legal disabilities and the removal of her legal record. But she said, people kept saying, but then why didn't you take it? And she said, because that would not have been honest. It would have been a lie because I did it and I didn't deserve it. And what I said was what's so fascinating about this. And I mean, this is more about the pardon power, but the pardon power is for people who are truly remorseful,
Yes.
truly made a
Yes.
transformation, who are really contrite, who are reformed and rehabilitated. She's the only one who actually deserved a pardon, as far as
Yes.
I know. She rejected the pardon. Then all these other people are out there, there's dozens and dozens of crimes that have been committed since January 6th,
Yes.
sex abuse, child pornography, rape, domestic violence, uh, conspiracy to murder FBI agents, you name it. If we were like Republicans, maybe we should be more like Republicans in the sense we'd be having a Willie Horton ad every night about what the J6 pardonees have done since all of this began and since
Absolutely.
Trump let them out. But anyway, um, it's such a searing statement about the topsy-turvy moral universe we're in that the one person who actually is genuinely contrite, repentant, and wanting to make amends with the police and with society is the one who refuses the pardon from Donald Trump.
Well, I commend your reading. We have a piece up today at the Contrarian that does exactly as you state. We look at the pardonees who have gone on to commit other crimes and other
Nice.
offenses and what they are up to, because, of course, pardoning people who are unrepentant opens up the opportunity for more criminal behavior. Imagine that.
And
What
by the way,
else?
on that point, thank you for doing that. That's
Oh,
fantastic.
sure.
But, I don't know if Donald Trump opens himself up to real questions from real reporters anymore, but
No.
he should be asked about this. Well, why has he not had to answer the question about whether
Right.
he takes responsibility for the J6 pardonees who've gone on to distinguish criminal careers in home invasion and terroristic threats and domestic violence?
Exactly. Well, hence the problem with the legacy media. Um, One of the kind of clear takeaways, I think, from today was that the facts that are undisputed, that you guys documented at the time, that the January 6th report confirmed, they haven't been rebutted so much as simply ignored by so many people. And does the kind of repentance by Pamela Hemphill suggest that other Republicans might come around eventually to recognize the reality? Or are we simply going to go through the next decades with a segment of America believing things that simply aren't true.
Well, there are many methodologies of denial and evasion, and sometimes you talk to the Republicans and they will, they'll go all the way with the conspiracy theories. Oh, that was Antifa.
Yeah,
Really? Why did Donald Trump just pardon 1,600 Antifa fighters? Uh, or it was really the FBI. Really, like there's never been a single bit of evidence for that. I mean, it's just ridiculous stuff. Sometimes it's kind of more subtle. It's, well, you guys are blowing it out of proportion. That not directly contradicting the facts, but you guys are making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. So I don't know. Uh the human mind is a shadowy, complex place. I mean, this is what we've learned during this period.
absolutely.
And the powers of self-rationalization are just bewilderingly vast.
The fact that January 6th falls just a couple days after the illegal unilateral war that Donald Trump launched for oil and for the benefit of his patrons in big oil speaks to this unbelievable, and we should continue to make that point, ability of him, thanks to the Supreme Court, to not only come back to power, but to come back to do arguably worse crimes, worse constitutional offenses. Given the light of where we are now, has your view of the Supreme Court and the damage they have done changed at all? Has it intensified? Has it given you more incentive to look at real reforms of the court, given what they've done to our constitutional system?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to pretend as if it's changed my view of the Supreme Court because
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
fell out of love with the Supreme Court a long time ago.
yes,
And after Bush versus Gore and Citizens United and all this stuff. But I will tell you that yes, I'm very focused on what can be done to try to salvage the situation. We need a real Supreme Court. And on a more optimistic note, what the district courts are doing, both
yes,
Democratic and Republican appointees, what the appeals courts are doing, both Democratic and Republican appointees, shows that the rule of law works, that
yes,
actually the vast majority of jurists who are not under the spell of a political clique will actually render fairly consistent and steady legal interpretation. And obviously, in addition to everything else they've thrown into the bonfire, they've thrown originalism, textualism, all of I mean, forget all of that with the right wing. I mean, they will just use whatever methodology or no methodology at all, or just invention to get to where they want to go. So we're going to have to reconstruct some methodologies of constitutional and statutory construction. And we can base it on a lot of the great decisions below that have been thrown out by the Supreme Court.
yes,
I mean, if you
yes,
look at that case from Colorado, which interpreted Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to say that Trump couldn't be on the ballot because he was an insurrectionist. I mean, that was just a model of
yes,
for legal analysis. And the DC Circuit Court opinion rejecting the immunity
yes.
doctrines that the Supreme Court ended up embracing, that was just magisterial. So it won't take much, but we do have to figure out the court, and I've got some ideas about that.
By the way, I think Justice Pan's comment about if you remember that whole discussion in that case about a SEAL 6 invasion and killing political enemies, that reads almost as prescient now in retrospect that we've just had a president.
And Florence Pan was using that as the outlandish cartoon example
Yes,
of where
exactly.
they lead. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that is fact. That's documentary, not farce. Speaking of which, we have not only the problem of Venezuela and not only the serial shredding of civil liberties in the out of control ICE raids. We could go on and on, largely because Republicans won't do anything. They won't do their jobs. They won't uphold their oaths. They won't listen to the constituents. You're going to have a vote tomorrow on the ACA extensions, and you're going to have other votes, I suspect, on Venezuela. Is anything getting through to them? Do the polls matter? Do the suffering of their constituents matter? Is anything going to rouse these people?
I mean, the good news is that, we saw erosion with Marjorie Taylor Greene, though she's gone, with
Yes.
Mace, although she's headed out too, and with my friend Lauren Boebert, who's hanging tough, but she's suffered like extreme political retaliation in the last few days in terms of losing, a project very important to her district. Um, you know, um, I believe that more people like that will be popping up, but it's very hard to predict who they will be because the general logic now is in for a dime, in for a dollar. In other words, if you've been with Donald Trump this long, you stuck through all of this stuff, and you've already explained all of this. Like what will actually push you over the edge? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I gotta believe that everybody at some point has their threshold of intolerance, and it's they just say, I can't take it anymore.
My theory is you just have to go out and beat them. But that will we'll see how it goes up to
Well,
the
that's my
midterms.
theory too. I mean, we're not taking anything for granted in terms of Republicans. And, I'm spending
Right.
most of my time out on the road, Jen,
Yes.
being in swing districts and swing states for colleagues who need help. And it's all hands on deck, and it's all for one and one for all here.
Absolutely. And that's the perfect segue. How do you talk about, we've in the past kind of broken these, I think that's wrong, into two buckets. One is democracy, rule of law, and the other is the economy and Donald Trump's broken promises. But in fact, there are many connective tissues. How do you talk when you go out on the road to swing districts about the message Democrats want to present? How do you explain this in a way that people who haven't voted for Democrats might in the future?
Well, for one thing, when we're defending democracy, we're defending, among other things, the achievements of democracy. So we're defending Social Security, we're defending Medicare, we're defending Medicaid. Those are the accomplishments of democratic movements and the Democratic Party in
Yes.
action. So it's that dissolves the difference immediately. When we think about moving forward, we've got to remember that democracy itself is not just like a static collection of rules and procedures. Democracy is a project.
Yes.
And at any time in our history, we are working on things together. I just finished reading this beautiful book about Senator Charles Sumner from Massachusetts.
Oh, I have to read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really powerful book, and it gives him his due. But basically, it talks about what the radical Republicans were doing and how they were totally thrown into the process of building strong democracy throughout
Yes.
the country and in the South, of course. Um, and that meant delivering concrete material achievements to people, schools, and land, and the opportunity to work and to have productive income.
Absolutely. One of the through lines on all of this, of course, is Donald Trump's sickening corruption. He goes to war for oil because those are his buddies. He deals with crypto overlords and pardons them because that's going to enrich himself. He gives tax cuts to billionaires and takes healthcare away because those are his sponsors. It's all in this kind of grotesque kind of self-dealing that ignores voters or steals from voters. has that permeated to average people? Do they understand that those two things are linked?
Oh, I think so. Uh, I think he has been revealed as a con man and um, you know, as a businessman, albeit a terrible and terribly corrupt businessman, but a businessman who's just in there for private self-enrichment. That's what it's all about. And they're
Yeah.
spending all their time making deals. And what's confusing to people is that there's been such a merging of his private business money making with the affairs of government that it's almost impossible to disentangle at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's exactly what the framers of the Constitution did not want. This is a
Exactly.
guy who is treating the government like it's his royal kingdom in the sense that government property is his property and the government is there to promote his wealth.
Exactly. Um, Given the fact we're 5 years out from January 6th, and we are dealing still with a president who is, as we just said, monumentally corrupt and lawless, and we have a Republican Party that is really at this point hopeless. What keeps you optimistic about the future? Is it those people who come out on No King's Day? Is it younger people who still have not lost their idealism? What fuels your optimism? Because you remain one of the most optimistic people I know.
Yeah, because we're going to win, and we're winning all over the country. Look, we won in Virginia, we won in Jersey, we won in New York, we won in California, we won in Mississippi, we won in Georgia, we won the mayoralty in Miami with our great new mayor down there. Anywhere that voters have an opportunity to go to the polls, they are registering overwhelming approval for Democrats and overwhelming rejection of Donald Trump. And, anytime a Republican says to me, oh, well, you guys are really low in the polls, I'm like, yeah, we're low in the polls because we lost to you. And people can't believe we've lost to Donald Trump. But we're going to
exactly
beat
right.
you guys. We're going to demolish you guys. And you're going to see our numbers soaring.
Right. That is exactly right.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, I find hope in the crisis itself. When
Yeah.
I was growing up, my dad used to say to us, when everything looks hopeless, you're the hope. And so
Wow.
the crisis where we got to be the hope for other people because there are always people who have it rougher than we do, no matter how tough
Absolutely.
it is. There are always people who are having it rougher,
Absolutely. And what I tell our contrarian friends out there is this is a privilege to live in a time where you can be fighting for democracy. There are not many times where so much is at stake in one generation, in one year, and we should embrace that opportunity.
Yeah.
I remember Bill Clinton saying that he missed, like a big crisis in his presidency. Well, we got a big crisis, so we can
I
take some
agree.
pride
We
and involvement.
get to go out and fight for everything we believe in every single day. And we're gonna have
Exactly.
some interesting debates going forward, and all of that is to the good, but we're always going to be on the side of democracy and freedom.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining me on what must be a tiring, emotional day for you. But I look forward to many more optimistic conversations in the year ahead.
I
We
would
always
not
love
have
having.
missed it, Jen. I love what you guys are doing in the Contrarian, and
Thank you.
send my best to everybody over there. All right.
I will. I will. Take care.